Greetings, YouTube. Happy Thursday, but more importantly, happy day one of the Abomination's stressful but incredible rewards opportunity that we know as Alliance Wars Season 2. And so I wanted today to give you as much information as possible to help you, regardless of where you are in the game. You could be someone like me who's played the game for over 2 years and you've got mostly guide tier 5-star champs. You could be somebody that joined the game just a couple months ago. You have no idea what Alliance Wars Season anything is, and you're just looking to not suck. Or maybe you're a middle tier player that's somewhere in between where you've got a couple of decent options for Alliance War and some good attackers, but still are looking to improve the abilities to get defensive kills in Alliance War because you want to make sure to get as many wins as possible for your Alliance, of course, to get the best rewards. This video is for you, and I hope that you find it to be helpful. I did a quick, just a 5-champ Alliance War boss video to try to help the community out a couple weeks ago. I'll put that link in the description box below. And I received a lot of incredible feedback. As always, you all are so helpful in telling me what works for you and what you want people to know about. And so what I've done is I've compiled a list of an additional 10 champs that I wasn't able to cover in my last video. Now, given this is the additional champ, so if you're asking me, how can like Medusa be off this list? Well, she's already on the first list, and I still think Medusa, for everything I've seen in the game, is the top Alliance War boss choice if you have the ability to have her on defense in your alliance, but a lot of people don't. And so, especially if you're starting out, you don't have a 5-star duped Medusa. So I'm going to go through, and some champs I have to talk about, and I'll show that visually, and some champs I don't. I'm just going to have to kind of talk about them and explain why they have worked for people. And so, just to start off, number 10 on the list is a very new character in the game that came in the game just a couple of months back, and that is Sabretooth. Now, this character is really great on Alliance War Defense because he has unparalleled regeneration. So if you don't bring a heal block champ, or say someone like a guillotine that can reverse the heal effect, you will be wrecked. And nothing is worse than fighting someone in Alliance War and you've got them down to like 20% health, and then you make a few mistakes, and suddenly, not only are you dead, but they now have 45% health back. It's maddening. It really is, and yet it can happen very easily, especially against a Sabretooth. So even though I don't have a Sabretooth in my roster, not even as a 3-star, I wanted to start off this video by saying if you have a Sabretooth, or your Alliance has a Sabretooth, that can be a great option for Alliance War Defense. Now, because a lot of people don't have Sabretooth, we're just going to move on straight to number 9. And I do not have this person available as a 4 or 5-star, but I do have them as a 4-star, and that is Morningstar. Now, this is a very popular choice for quite a few people who commented on my first video. Again, thanks for those comments. She has an incredible special, too. She is really a really underrated champion. I mean, I think both her and someone else I'll cover soon. Oh, look, I'm getting a dungeon invitation. Sorry, bro. I'm actually doing a video right now. One of the Mystic champions, there's so many good Mystic champions in the game, right, that some can kind of fall through the cracks. And Morningstar is one of those champions. And when you're talking about Mystic champs, and I'm just going to talk about this a lot in today's video, you really want to maximize Mystic Dispersion. So real quick, for those of you who may not know what Mystic Dispersion is, I want to make sure that I cover that real quick. So if you go to your Mastery setup, and given it's hard to awaken this at first because you need quite a few points in utility, but this is Mystic Dispersion. You'll find it on the right side of the tree under utility, and I have it at 4 out of 5. That works really well for me. I guess in theory I could go up to 5 out of 5, but for the moment I'd rather put that mastery point in something else. But Mystic Dispersion automatically gains the power meter, especially with dexterity, and we know when you're fighting alliances, especially Alliance War fights, you're going to use dexterity to evade, and every time you do, you're going to be punished with that power gain, and the higher that Mystic Dispersion is up, certainly once it gets to 5 out of 5, the more power that the defender is going to gain awfully quickly, and there are so many champs that can produce devastating damage as Mystic champs with a fully maxed Mystic Dispersion, and let's just say that Well, let's just say that Morningstar is on that list as well. So I'm going to go back to my champs as I just covered Mystic Dispersion. I do get that question fairly often because Mystic Dispersion, you hear about it. It's not something that is completely obvious if you don't know what it is. And okay, so that is Morningstar. And of course, Morningstar has great bleed ability as well. If you bring a champion in that isn't bleed immune and you fight Morningstar, you're going to lose health. And I'm going to point this out. I know that the number one comment for Mystic Champs is going to be, well, if you have a blade and you got your danger sense, you'll be fine. Well, look, a lot of people don't have blade. And if you're starting out in the game, I highly doubt anyone in your alliance has a blade. So it's very easy to have 20/20 hindsight now that you've played the game for a few years and talk about blade. But that just doesn't work for a lot of people who are starting out, especially because now that the featured crystal has changed, you can't ever hoard shards for blade like you could before, and so the chance of somebody getting a blade, especially duplicating a blade, in the current over 100 champs in the 5-star basic pool is less than 1%. So good luck with that. Okay, now we're going to talk about a champion that is actually one of my top 10 favorite champs in the game, someone that's incredibly underrated, and that's Mephisto. Now, Mephisto has a fantastic regen once you start to think that you've won the fight against him. And again, I know people are going to say Blade helps counter that. Most people don't have Blade. And for the sake of this video, I'm just going to assume that you don't either. Now, Mephisto's Incinerate is also extremely reliable, and the power gain for Mephisto can wreck you fast when you combine it with Mystic Dispersion. Oh, if you don't bait that Special 1 or Special 2, you are going to be wrecked so fast. And something I love about Mephisto, because a lot of people say, well, just bring Iceman. Well, what Mephisto does is he nullifies Iceman's ice armor. So if you aren't able to control the power, you're still going to be wrecked because you can't protect yourself from that 5% wall or that ceiling that you could with the ice armor normally, no matter how well you play. So I've had an Iceman every time I bring him into Alliance War attack, and he can still very easily be wrecked by Mephisto. So number 7 is a champion that's new that I don't have either, but I wanted to make sure to cover because nothing quite annoys me as every once in a while I'll go into a upper tier Alliance War boss fight, and guess who's waiting for me? It's everyone's favorite Sentinel. Now, I don't understand why Sentinel is so damn powerful in this game, because Sentinel in the comics, at least growing up in like the 90s X-Men TV show, highly underrated show, by the way. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sentinels were just cake. They were like the putties from Power Rangers. Like 1,000 of them would appear, and then they'd all die. So when they said the Sentinel was coming in the game, I'm like, well, that's probably not going to be a big deal. But, of course, the Sentinel is an amazing option for Alliance War boss, not only because of the immunities to things like poison and bleed, but if you aren't varying your counter and you stick with all lights or all mediums or whatever, that auto learning capability is going to kick in, and the more that the AI improves in the Sentinel, the less damage you're going to take. And I do realize that Sentinels can be pretty easy to dodge the Special 1 and Special 2 once you get the hang of it, but for a lot of people, even though you've played Map 5 and Alliance Quest, you're still going to have a hard time at times defeating Sentinels. And then, of course, with the Sentinels, you also get to that point where if their AI is high enough, and I think, 100? They are unblockable. And so if you make a mistake on an evade, you're dead. So yeah, Sentinels can be game over easily. Now, trying to stick with the combination of old and new champs, oh my gosh. Those of you, I would hesitate to think, if you're honest with yourself and you're watching this, that there have been times where you've just been wrecked by a Yondu at least once. Like, this is the AA version of Yondu. Hi, I'm so-and-so and I have a problem and it's fighting Yondu. I have done much better against Yondu finally because my tip against Yondu is to block, and eventually when you block against Yondu, not parry, but block, he's going to get impatient and he's going to fire his heavy, and once you get used to dodging the heavy, you can come in and counter. But if you're not prepared for Yondu and you haven't fought him very well or very much, you are going to be wrecked so fast. And the thing about Yondu now is he's available in a 6-star version, and so 6-star Yondu can cause a ton of problems. His arrow procs bleed and armor breaks even if you have a bleed immune champion. So you're going to find yourself, if you put your 5 or 6-star, even unawakened Yondu on Alliance War defense, getting a lot of kills. And if you're up against a newer alliance or a younger alliance that doesn't have that experience or simply doesn't have the attack champions to boot, you're going to find out quickly when you click on the kills that he is an extremely reliable option. Now I'm going to cover at number 5 a champion that's been around for a very long time and still has great value in Alliance War Defense, and that's Juggernaut. Now again, I know some people are going to comment and say, well, he's a Mystic Champ, so use Blade. Well, not everybody has Blade, and even if you have Blade, and I do have Blade, that still doesn't mean that the Unstoppable is going to not appear every time, and that also doesn't mean, of course, that you're not going to trigger that full Mystic Dispersion. And Mystic Dispersion works better for Juggernaut than most Mystic Champs because everything from Special 1 to Special 2 to Special 3 is highly effective, and once Juggernaut pins you against the wall and you can no longer evade back, you're basically screwed unless you can just keep evading. But even if you keep evading, you'll still trigger that Mystic Dispersion. So it's a terrible, unhealthy cycle of losing health and, dare I say, life in terms of revives. So you're going to get backed in a corner with Juggernaut's Unstoppable, and most alliances, if you put him as a boss, of course, he's unstunnable. So unstunnable Juggernaut, because a lot of people say, well, just parry him. Well, you can't parry if they're unstunnable. So Juggernaut's a fantastic option. Even in the current state of the game, it would be very easy for me to say that when in doubt, put your Juggernaut, and especially, of course, Awakened, because Juggernaut Unawakened doesn't have much value at all in Alliance War Boss Defense, and easy game, easy life, as they say. Now, number 4 is an option I've never actually used, but I have heard, especially for newer alliances, that he can be so difficult to fight, and that is Hyperion. Someone that is so fun to play as an attacker, too. So it's always fun when you have a champ that has value in both Alliance War Attack and Alliance War Defense. Now, Hyperion, of course, is poison immune, so that does help in some ways, but the main reason why Hyperion is so great is the unbelievable power gain. You can stack Furies as well, and his special one with the Incinerate is fantastic. So I would highly recommend, if you have a Hyperion, that you consider him as an Alliance War boss. That power gain is so devastating. I hate fighting Hyperions and not triggering a Special 1 or Special 2, because then you hit the Special 3, and unless you have someone like AntMan with the protected 5% ice armor, you're going to lose health awfully quickly, and if he stacks those Furies, the attack goes through the roof. So Hyperion is a great option. Now, sticking with older champions, we're going to go to somebody that most alliances will not use this as advice, but if you are a newer alliance, this can absolutely help you. So this advice is geared towards you, and it's somebody that, as an attacker, is incredibly useless, and somebody that is so in desperate need of a buff, because AntMan is a fantastic character in the Marvel Universe. He's coming out with a new movie, right, this summer, and yet he's just pretty much trash as an attacker. But if you fought AntMan before, especially if you don't have like a reliable bleed champion, you understand how difficult it is to get critical hits off because of his glancing ability. So AntMan is a champion that in some of the like lower tiered alliances, if you put him as an Alliance War boss, you're going to have opportunities for kills because they're simply going to time out on AntMan. And that can be very frustrating. And even though he doesn't do a ton of damage as an attacker, you're still going to get those kills because they're going to run out of time. And that can be really valuable. So again, this is the champion that in this top 10 list I wouldn't say is like something that everybody should use. But if you're a newer player that doesn't have a lot of options, consider AntMan. AntMan's glancing really sucks to play. Now, number 2, and these aren't really in any particular order except for number 1, and I'll spend a decent amount of time since they are number 1 on the list talking about them. But one of the champions that just sucks to fight, especially if you haven't fought him much before, is Ultron. Now, why is this? Ultron first has the double immunity, which is one of the very few champs in the game to have that, so you can't poison him, you can't bleed him. He is much more powerful, dare I say, than he was in the Age of Ultron movie. And the thing that sucks most about fighting him is you see these abilities. He has got a unpredictable evade, and nothing is worse because his function every 7 seconds is to evade than to fight Ultron and think that you are about to win. Like, say you've got a Star-Lord and you're about to get off your Special 2, and then he evades, you aren't able to get the Special 2 off, and then he counters and wrecks you. That's happened to me so many times, I'm not ashamed to admit it. So Ultron is great, and because he only absorbs energy damage when he's awakened, he doesn't have to be awakened to be a great Alliance War boss, which is also something I'm trying to keep in mind if you're watching this, because I realize you might have a great champ, but they aren't awakened. The same goes for Hyperion. You don't need Hyperion to be awakened to be effective as well. So unpredictable evade, double immunity, decent regeneration. This is why I prefer Ultron in a lot of cases over Vision, for the simple sake of the regen as an attacker. Now, as a defender, obviously that argument changes a little bit, and if you're going for power gain, there is no argument. Vision is clearly the superior double immunity champion. But he also proctors a great bleed, and I almost feel like, because I fight Ultron every once in a while, and I've been fighting with Ultron for years, I almost feel like they've made his bleed better. Maybe that's just me giving Kabam credit when they shouldn't get it, but his bleed has been great. I've been able to stack it with 4 to 5 stacks, and that is also because I've maximized the deep wounds mastery, and I always recommend that save up units and open up deep wounds. And there's so many great bleed causing champions that you're going to want to make sure you get deep wounds maxed as much as possible. Now, the last champ on the list is one that is the most popular recommendation, and for really good reasons, especially on an unstunnable boss node. And that is somebody, unfortunately, only has a 3-star. But let's talk about this guy. No list would be complete in the current state of the game without MODOK, or Captain Potato Head, or Mr. Potato Head, or whatever you call this guy. I'd love to see your comments below on the nicknames for this guy that sucks so much to play. Okay, so you've got an unstunnable MODOK, which means you can't parry and then counter with a heavy attack, which a lot of people, when he came out, said just parry and heavy attack. Well, it works, especially with a champion like Hyperion, but if you can't parry, you don't have that ability. So throw that strategy out the window. Now, if you've got a blade and you're able to proctor Danger Sense, this helps, but a lot of people don't have blade, and I have blade, and I still get wrecked daily by MODOKs, because sometimes I am just trying to figure out a way to counter, and then all of a sudden he will wreck me because his heavy throws a crazy amount of incinerate damage, and as an Alliance War boss, he is so buffed, he is so boosted with his stats that you are basically going to instantly die, because there are so many champs that aren't incinerate immune, so there's nothing you can do. You're dead. I hate fighting MODOK. He is the second champ that I say is the worst to fight when I see him pop up. Number 1 to me still is going to be Medusa, because I know there are people out there who are like experts at fighting Medusa, and I need your help, because once she has her her living strands available and she can auto block and instantly counter, it takes such a long time to wait to get that off that either I'm going to wait like 35 to 40 seconds of hopefully they're just dodging back, or I'm going to go in for the kill, get some damage, and then be wrecked. And I know some people are going to say, well, just bring someone like a Scarlet Witch. Well, most people don't bring Scarlet Witch to Alliance War attack when you're up in the top tiers. And to be honest, my path, I couldn't bring Scarlet Witch because there's too much poison. So yeah, not the best option, even though I understand the argument to actually nullify the living strand ability. But MODOK just sucks to fight. He's just the worst. He's the worst because that auto block and the taunting to just make matters worse is terrible. So if you are an Alliance and you have not put MODOK, especially an Awakened MODOK, as your Alliance War boss, make this video be the call to action for you to put your Alliance War boss as a final just nail in the coffin with MODOK. Now, my goal was to get this video under 20 minutes and to cover 10 champs and to do not more than 2 minutes per champ. I am sitting at just about 19 minutes right now, so I am going to try to hurry because I know your time is valuable and I never want to waste it. So, just to recap real quick. Number 10, Sabretooth. Amazing regeneration. You don't have a heal block champ, you are going to really be screwed. Number 9, Morningstar. So many pluses, especially with Mystic Dispersion. And if you don't have a bleed immune champ, you're going to lose health quickly. Number 8, Mephisto. One of my top 10 favorite champs. Incinerate, regeneration, power gain, nullifies ice armor. Number 7, Sentinel. Boss, it just sucks. So much immunity issues. Auto learning with AI, unblockable specials. Yondu at number 6, 6-star beast, arrows, proc bleed, and armor breaks, available again as a 6-star. Number 5, Juggernaut, such a great champion with Mystic Dispersion. You aren't going to be able to do much when he's unstoppable, and if you can't stun him, you're going to be wrecked when he gets you in the corner. Number 4, Hyperion, you got the power gain, the Incinerate, the Fury stacks. If you aren't careful, Special 3 is going to be activated quickly, and you're going to be dead. Number 3, AntMan, probably the least option overall in terms of most alliances, but then again, his glancing will cause you to time out, and you'll get some kills that way. Number 2, Ultron, doesn't need to be awakened. Double immunity, unpredictable evade, decent regeneration, causes bleed. And then number 1, this guy, MODOK, Captain Potato Head. You will get so many kills by wrecking with Incinerate. You can't parry him. The auto block is going to be a huge issue. So those are the 10 champs that I'm going to tell you to think about as Alliance War options in the start of Season 2, and I'm going to get this out. I'm recording this in my office. I got to my office an hour early to do this video, and I'm going to put this out this morning to help as many people before they start the official Season 2 of Alliance War. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope this helps you, and as always, my channel is only as successful as your feedback. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, I really appreciate the subscription. And as always, have a great day and good luck in the game.